The Congress party announced its candidates for the Lok Sabha. This was the second list that came out yesterday, and 43 candidates were announced. This is in addition to the 39 candidates that were announced a few days back. And there are a few key takeaways or messages that one can read into when you see this list. Uh, the the list that had come earlier of 39 candidates was largely uh, either to do with states in the south, Karnataka, Telangana, or the few seats of the northeastern states. And the only exception to these two combinations was Chhattisgarh, which is a Hindi-speaking, Hindi belt state. And when you saw that list, there were two broad messages that the first list of the Congress tried to give out. One was that the party, which is facing a very severe existential crisis, they've had back-to-back two Lok Sabha defeats, very debilitating defeats, and a series of assembly election routes that they faced. So, keeping that in mind, you saw the list of Kerala, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, and you had one major message, which was that the party wanted all hands on deck. It wanted all its senior leaders to face the elections. And so you had in Chhattisgarh, former Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel, who was fielded despite him being reluctant to contest the elections and having expressed so to the party leadership. You had Tamradhwaj Sahu, who was also a very senior leader of the party and a backward caste face of the party in Chhattisgarh, who had lost the assembly elections a few months back, but he was fielded again as a candidate for the Lok Sabha elections. And then you also had KC Venugopal, who's perhaps not in that sense an electoral warhorse of the party, but he's a very senior and important leader within the organizational scheme of the Congress party because of his proximity to Rahul Gandhi. He's considered to be one of the closest guards of Rahul Gandhi. And of course, he is also the general secretary organization of the Congress. And so he had opted out of contesting the Lok Sabha elections in 2019. He was not very keen, from what we've learned, to contest, the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. But he was also fielded from his erstwhile seat of Alapura in Kerala. And so there was a certain messaging from the party that it's going to get all its senior leaders, the strong leaders, to contest, so that there is an immediate messaging to the voters and to the political rivals as well as allies alike of the Congress that the party is taking this election very seriously. It is, of course, a do or die election for the Congress. And so the expectation was that this is a trend that's likely to continue when the next round of candidates are announced. But then what do we see when the second list comes out, which came out last evening? 43 candidates spread across largely Hindi-speaking states, the Hindi belt states of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and of course Uttarakhand, which is a small state. It has only 5 seats, but then nonetheless 5 seats that matter in an election such as this for the Congress, and of course Assam. Now these are all states where unlike a Kerala, which was for which candidates were declared in the first list, where you have the Congress versus the left, because the BJP hardly has any ground there. In the second list, it was mainly states where it's a direct contest between the Congress and the BJP. And so the expectation was that the Congress will put up candidates who immediately send out a message that the party is not going to take any chances this time. But contrary to all expectations, you you see very, very few senior leaders or leaders uh, who are known for their electoral heft featuring in this list. From what we're told, most of the senior leaders of the party within the Hindi, in what is called the Hindi Heartland or the Hindi Belt or the Hindi speaking states, where it's a direct one-on-one contest between the Congress and the BJP, most of the Congress's senior leaders are reluctant to fight. Uh, and the general impression is for fear of a defeat. So let's take Madhya Pradesh, for example, where 10 candidates were announced. Madhya Pradesh has senior leaders of the party, such as Digvijay Singh, a former chief minister, Kamal Nath, a former chief minister, uh, Arun Yadav, a former union minister, as well as a former state Congress president, Kantilal Bhuria, a former union minister and a former state Congress president, and the party's senior most tribal face in Madhya Pradesh. None of these names featured in the list. From what we are told by our sources in the Congress, Mr. Digvijay Singh, who lost the 2019 elections to Pragya Thakur of the BJP from Bhopal by a margin of over 3.64 lakh votes, was very reluctant to contest the elections this time round, even though the party had told him that he has the liberty to choose whichever seat he wants to contest from, because the last time around when he was fielded from Bhopal, he was not very happy about it. He wanted to be fielded from his traditional home seat of Rajgarh. And so the Congress had even indicated to him that if you want to contest from Rajgarh, you can contest from Rajgarh. But then we're told that he was reluctant. He said he's got time in a few years left for his term in the Rajya Sabha, and so he would rather campaign for the party than contest the elections. Now, this argument that several of these leaders have are either sitting MLAs or they have years left of their Rajya Sabha tenure doesn't really cut, because the list does feature several sitting MLAs. It does feature, the previous list featured KC Venugopal, who's also a Rajya Sabha member, who has 2 years left of his tenure, and he could have used the same ground, to kind of bow out of the race. But you have a situation now where in the Hindi Heartland states, where it really matters, where the Congress for the opposition's India coalition has to do the heavy lifting, because remember, you have roughly 200 out of the 543 seats of the Lok Sabha, where the Congress and the BJP are in a direct contest. For any change of regime that the opposition expects or hopes for, it's the Congress that will need to bring the bulk of the seats from its kitty, from these 200 seats. And if here you start off on a note where the message is that senior leaders are reluctant to fight, they're afraid of fighting the elections, you've lost half the battle there, because elections, as we know, have increasingly become a lot about perceptions and narratives. And that's a narrative that the Congress seems to have let go of or lost in the second list by not being able to convince its senior leaders from contesting. So you have Nakul Nath, sitting member of parliament from the Chhindwara seat in Madhya Pradesh, son of Mr. Kamal Nath, former chief minister, who's been fielded again from his seat. And his candidature comes at a time when there was heady speculation over the last few days or weeks that Mr. Kamal Nath and Mr. Nakul Nath may both actually switch to the BJP. Then in Rajasthan, the expectation was that the party will field Ashok Gehlot, former chief minister. It will field Sachin Pilot, former deputy chief minister and a prominent face of the party. Govind Singh Dotasra, who's the PCC president and a prominent Jat leader in the state. But again, none of these feature in that list. They've had to rely mostly on second-rung leaders or as the case with Mr. Rahul Kaswa, who's been fielded from the Churu constituency, who joined the Congress after quitting the BJP on Monday. So he quits the BJP on Monday, and on Tuesday he's fielded from the Churu seat. Of course, he's an electoral heavyweight. It's the Churu constituency is a stronghold of his family. They've been winning it for the last several terms in the Lok Sabha, but he's not in that sense a Congress war horse or an old Congress leader. He's been imported from the BJP just 2 days ago. And then you have Assam, which where the selection of candidates was interesting, because Assam, among all these states, Assam is the only one where you've had the delimitation exercise completed, and so the constituencies have changed, and the Congress, out of the 3 sitting MPs that it has in Assam, it's dropped one, which is Mr. Abdul Khalik, who was the MP from Barpeta. He has been dropped because we're told that post delimitation, the constituency that he contested from, the constituency of Barpeta, has gone through several demographic changes, in terms of its social profile, and so he is only the second sitting MP to be dropped by the Congress. Keeping both the lists together, Mr. T.N. Pratapan from Kerala was also dropped in the first list, and now Mr. Abdul Khalik. But Gaurav Gogoi, who's emerged as one of the most prominent young faces of the Congress, who represented the Kaliabor constituency for the last 2 terms, and it's a constituency that's been scrapped post delimitation. He was very keen on contesting from the Nagaon constituency, which had its sitting MP also from the Congress, Pradyut Bordoloi. And the issue there again was that large chunks of the Kaliabor constituency had been merged with Nagaon, and so Gaurav wanted to contest from there. But then, unlike several of the heavyweights of the Congress who shied away from contesting, when the party, we are told, reached out to Gaurav Gogoi and said that we're anyway facing a major crisis of attrition in Assam, we cannot slight Pradyut Bordoloi any further by taking away his seat, and so Gaurav agreed. He's now going to contest from the Jorhat seat, which within the Congress's own calculations is a difficult constituency. But Gaurav Gogoi has been tasked with contesting from there. And again, Bhupen Bora, who's the Assam Congress chief, who the party wanted to contest, field from the Sonitpur constituency, has bowed out of the race. He was reluctant. He wanted to be spared for campaigning, which is a common excuse by a lot of the leaders who have not agreed to contest. And this now leaves Uttarakhand, the one other state that featured in this second list, where again the party wanted to field Harish Rawat, the former chief minister, and we're told that Mr. Harish Rawat was reluctant. So, although there are 2 more seats that are still to be announced from Uttarakhand out of the 5, but Mr. Harish Rawat comes from Almora. The expectation was that if he is to be fielded, he'll be fielded from Almora, and that seat has now been given to Pradeep Tamta, a former Rajya Sabha member from the party, a former MP from the party, and Mr. Ganesh Godial, who's a former state Congress chief, has also been fielded from one of the Uttarakhand seats. The most interesting one here in this list, of course, is Gujarat. Gujarat is, as we all know, the home state of Prime Minister Modi, of Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah, and now even the BJP president, Mr. JP Nadda, who's from Himachal, is a Rajya Sabha member from Gujarat. And this is a state that has increasingly, swerved saffron, has become one of the most unshakable saffron bastions for the BJP. Over the last few weeks, we've seen droves of Congress leaders leaving their party and joining the BJP. Of course, these are things that happen before any election. But Gujarat is a state where the Congress has severely crippled. And the expectation from the Congress was that there will be some kind of very careful thinking in the selection of candidates. But hours before the list came out, you had one of the most prominent remaining faces of the Congress in Gujarat, Mr. Bharat Singh Solanki, a former union minister, and son of Madhav Singh Solanki, a former chief minister of Gujarat and a Congress stalwart in his own right back in the day, taking to Twitter to say that he does not want to contest the election. So what's emerged from this list is that these were states where the Congress had a strong message to give, but failed because it couldn't convince several of its senior leaders to enter the electoral arena, despite the fact that these are the states where the Congress is in a direct fight with the BJP and where it has to contest, perhaps among all other constituencies, most fiercely against the BJP or its allies. I mean, these are states, of course, where it's only the BJP. It's not the allies that the Congress is going to fight against. Now, one other important element that needs to be addressed is when we spoke to several of the senior leaders, one message that sort of comes across is that while the party is trying to convince its senior and veteran leaders to enter the field, it's facing the election in a scenario where Sonia Gandhi, the longest-serving Congress president, has herself bowed out of the elections. She's entered Rajya Sabha and given up her Raebareli constituency. We still do not know whether Priyanka Gandhi, who the party has been trying to convince to contest from Raebareli, will actually enter the field. She's been non-committal so far. She hasn't dropped any hints on whether she's going to contest. We still don't know whether Rahul Gandhi will try his luck again from the from his old seat of Amethi, which he lost in 2019 to the BJP. And then yesterday you had the Congress president, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, himself more or less confirm that he's not going to contest the elections this time round from his traditional seat of Gulbarga in Karnataka. And he said that he's 83 years old. I mean, he tried to mock a journalist who asked him this question on whether he was backing away from the fight by saying, "I'm 83 years old, you retire at 65." So several of the senior leaders of the party believe that if the Congress leadership, if the high command of the party wants senior leaders to face the election, a tough election, then they also need to lead by example, which is not happening so far. Of course, Rahul is contesting from Wayanad, which in any case is considered a safe seat. Although the UP unit of the party has passed a resolution asking both Rahul and Priyanka to contest from Amethi and Raebareli, but we don't know as yet whether that's going to happen. The discussions on the 17 seats that the Congress is going to contest in Uttar Pradesh is likely to happen on the 15th of March. But so far, both the lists put together, the first list was mostly on, barring Chhattisgarh, was mostly on expected lines because you repeated almost all of your, with the exception of Mr. Pratapan, all other sitting MPs from Kerala. And Karnataka and Telangana, because the Congress is in power, it's on a stronger footing. So, I mean, that was the first list where there weren't really any major surprises except the one message of the party wanting its senior leaders to contest. And that message came from Chhattisgarh with the candidature of Mr. Bhupesh Baghel and Tamradhwaj Sahu. But then that message has been lost somewhere when the second list came out. Now we're looking forward to the Congress's meeting on the 15th of March, when more constituencies and more candidates are to be discussed, and we'll know either on the 15th or the 16th what kind of candidates the Congress now bets on in its third round. But so far, the Congress's lists send a very muddled message. It's not a message with which the party should have been going into elections. If you wanted to send out a message of strength, of commitment, and confidence, that's not the message that comes out from the second list, unfortunately for the Congress party.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.